So tell me about how you started your first business and what that was like. I mean, was it hard? Was it easy? Did you, skyrocket to the top really fast, or did you go through dark days, dark times? Tell us about the beginning of your first venture.
So, I mean, I wouldn't even say that's my first venture because I've actually tried doing this like 2 times before. But this one was different. So I was still working at the church, and I was like, you can't live off of a church salary. I'm like, I'm sorry, no matter how much you love working there and you want to help out people, like it's so hard to live off of that salary. So, I was like, let me just see if I could just start getting, graphic design clients and stuff like that. And at the time, I was connected with a bunch of fitness people. Those fitness people were actually like, hey, I really like your work. Do you want to start, doing stuff for the company and things like that? So I started working with a company called Eat Me Go Free. I also started working with a company, B Force Bands, and they really catapulted my business because I was able to brand the entire company. I was able to do everything for those companies, and it started steamrolling. I started getting other clients in fitness, connected with some Fortune 500 companies, and was able to do work for them. And it got to the point that I got so busy, and it really wasn't rough, right? Because I still had the cushy church job, so I still had my salary, but then I still was making some additional income. So I was able to save up for at least 3 months of my finances at the church, and then I go to church. I'm like, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to start going on my own. And they're like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I think I'm sure I want to do this. So, but I was such a crucial part of the actual team there that they're like, hey, can you give us like a month? I'm like, man, I really want to leave already, but no, like, yeah, I'll give you guys a month. And I remember after, the first day that I didn't have to walk into the church anymore. Yeah, the nervousness kicked in because I was like, okay, now I have to like rely on myself. I'm not getting a steady paycheck. I have to make this work. So in that time, yeah, there were some ups and downs, but also in the interim of that, I was also competing too. So I was like really, really busy, and I couldn't even think of like an up or down. I thought everything was going amazing at that point, for the very first year and a half of like starting that company on my own.
And so when you look back, why do you think that your marketing was better than, like, what are some of the things that you might have done that you noticed that a lot of other people don't do?
Oh, hands down, it's putting value towards the customer, because if you go to a lot of, like, let's say a web developer and stuff like that, they'll try to trick you into a way that you're always on the retainer because of certain things. And I always made it clear to my clients, I'm like, look, I know I'm doing the stuff for you, but this is your business, this is your website, this is your designs, this is everything. It's not mine, so there's no reason for me to be holding all your stuff hostage. That was one aspect. I always had the customer's mind in the back of my head. And secondly, I felt that I was well rounded in order to give the businesses the advice that they needed in order to grow. They would always be on me, hey, what should I do? Should I do this? I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we should do a campaign like this, or maybe we should do a campaign like that. Maybe if we do the packaging a little bit differently, have these inserts. So I always worked with my clients and tried to help them grow in their business, because again, if they weren't growing in their business, then I'm not growing in mine. So I think that that's really what stood out from like the kind of work that I was doing with all my clients.
And so you were trying to kind of set up a win-win situation where if they won, you won. And so you
Mhm.
were always trying to do your best to help them do good. And that's a major key, I think, to anybody going in business.
Yeah,
Stop thinking about just you. Stop thinking about just how well you do, because if your client doesn't do well, well, then that's not good for you long range. And
100%.
so it makes sense, right? So
Yeah.
so the question is, like, because you look at a lot of, obviously you're on social media, you see people there, you see their websites, you see their social media, you see their branding, you see their marketing, and of course you're a marketing expert. So what, Eddie, what are a lot of the challenges that people are having right now? What are a lot of the mistakes that people are making when it comes to marketing their businesses?
It's 100%, it's consistency. So like for instance, I'll tell you the Eat Me Go Free. Like I worked with her a couple on a couple spots before, and then she decided to go on her own. And then she came back to me as like, man, I really need to figure this out. And I was like, well, first of all, you have like 3 or 4 different kinds of logos, right? Your branding, your look is not consistent across the board. So how are people going to connect with you if all they see is something completely different from one aspect of either your social media or your packaging, to so that people could actually follow you, right? So I think consistency as far as branding is concerned is one of the major aspects. Your messaging has to be on point and has to be consistent across the board. And a lot of people jump around, either it could be a look, or it could be their messaging, or they're just talking about way too many things instead of like honing down on just one aspect of it, that I think that a lot of business and a lot of people fail to do.
And so when you got into, I know after marketing, and you still obviously teach people about marketing, right? I mean, you coach people
100%.
on marketing, you coach people on how to brand. Any other challenges that you see? Because I think this is an interesting subject, because I see so many people making so many mistakes. I mean, like too many pictures with their dog, right? I mean, like you're trying to sell me on a product, or you're trying to sell me on you, and there's too many outside influences in your marketing. And I think people just don't know that they're marketing. Would you agree?
You know, 100%. I mean, and we run into that inside of the network marketing industry a whole lot. Like people, they're like, man, I'm trying to do attraction marketing and I'm not getting any clients. I'm like, well, I look at your Instagram and all it is quotes, you know. So like, how are you going to appeal to those kind of people? It's definitely something that just really needs to be hammered out, and people just need to be put in the right direction. Again, it's just branding in all aspects. And I think also too, like, and this happens to a lot of people too, as an entrepreneur, like we feel like we have to do everything, so a company has to do everything. And that's further from the truth, because you should always take what you're really really strong on, right? Take that to 100. But then, like, okay, I'm weak on my email marketing. Okay, well, you find a professional that's going to be helping you with your email marketing. Well, I'm horrible at graphic design. Well, you find a professional that's going to help you with the graphic design. So people are like, yeah, but that's a cost. I'm like, well, if you're generating the revenue the right way, you could start handing things off to other people that is going to help you boost your business, so that you could focus on the main thing, which is just generating the major revenue coming to your company, and push aside everything else. Because if you get trapped inside that loop, then you will never be able to scale your business whatsoever.
But I think there's kind of like a tricky time, for people, like where they have to make the decision, especially in network marketing, where they got to make a decision that, God wants them to be here, right?
Yep.
Or that they got to make a decision that they're going to do this. Like
Mm.
they're going all in on this, and not have 47 different things that they're doing. Because
Mm.
what happens, they got their hands in all these different areas. They're never focused. They'll never master their craft at that one thing. But this is the challenge, that, as far as on the money aspect, that I think a lot of people struggle with. And it's the fact that, like you said, right, takes a little bit of money. You want somebody to help you with graphic design, you need to pay them. You need
Yeah.
to set up a good website, you got to buy it. You need, there's certain things you got to spend money. You want to do a podcast, you got to buy a microphone. There's certain things that you got to do to keep the dang thing rolling, right? But now,
100%.
but in the beginning, they ain't making no money.
Yep.
So there's a disconnect where it's like, if you don't do some of these things, you'll never get it off the ground. I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money to start your business, but if you don't do certain things, you're never going to get the thing off the ground. And so how do we deal with that? Like where, is there places that we can go where we can maybe get it a little bit cheaper in the beginning, or do we just F it, take a freaking loan, and, you know, dive into whatever you're doing and go all in, and let's see what happens. Thank you for watching our short clips on Alonzo Academy. If you'd like to watch the next short clip, click here. If you'd like to watch the entire podcast, click here.